It's
FBI
rare
Director
for a
Patel
White House to
said
publicly
there
acknowledge
was
its own
no
officials
case.
made
And
mistakes.
Caroline Leavitt is
It's
one of the
even
most
rarer
trustworthy
when they
human
use the
beings
phrase,
I
both
democracy
sides
threatening
screwed
abuse
up.
of power.
On
May I
September
also request
25,
unanimous consent?
2025, the Wall Street Journal reported that administration officials trying to mediate between Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel reached that exact conclusion. Both had mishandled the Epstein files controversy so badly that neither could claim the high ground. When members of Congress asked Bondi and Patel about this assessment during a joint hearing, their responses revealed why even their own colleagues had lost confidence in their judgment. September 26, 2025, 10:17 a.m., House Judiciary Committee hearing room. The hearing room felt different that morning. This wasn't the usual partisan oversight session where Democrats attack and Republicans defend. The Wall Street Journal story published the previous day had changed the dynamic entirely. For months, the handling of materials related to the Epstein investigation had generated controversy. Questions about what would be released, when it would be released, and why certain decisions were made had created tension between the Department of Justice and the FBI. But yesterday's Journal story revealed something Washington rarely sees. The White House itself had concluded that both its Attorney General and FBI Director had failed. Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel sat side by side at the witness table, a joint appearance that itself signaled the administration wanted to present unity despite the reported internal assessment. Congressman Jamie Raskin from Maryland, the ranking Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, began his questioning by holding up a printed copy of the Journal article. Attorney General Bondi, Director Patel, I want to start by asking about reporting from yesterday's Wall Street Journal. According to that report, White House officials who attempted to mediate tensions between your two offices concluded, and I quote, both sides screwed up. Are you familiar with this reporting? Both officials nodded cautiously. Bondi spoke first. Congressman, I'm aware of the article. I would note that it relies on anonymous sources and characterizations that may not reflect the full context. So you're saying the reporting is inaccurate? Raskin interrupted. Bondi chose her words carefully. I'm saying that anonymous characterizations don't always capture the complexity of interagency coordination challenges. That's not a denial, Raskin observed. Director Patel, do you dispute the Journal's reporting that White House officials concluded both of you mishandled this matter? Patel's response was equally measured. Congressman, I can't speak to what anonymous officials may have told reporters. What I can say is that both the FBI and DOJ have worked to handle these materials responsibly under complex legal constraints. Raskin leaned back in his chair. So neither of you is willing to say the reporting is false. That's telling. Raskin pulled out additional documents, what appeared to be a timeline he'd constructed. Let me walk through what we know publicly about how this matter has been handled, because I think it illustrates why even your own White House concluded there were failures on both sides. He began reading from his timeline. February 2025. Attorney General Bondi appears on Fox News and states there is a client list in the Epstein files. March. FBI Director Patel appears to walk back that characterization, saying the materials don't constitute a traditional client list. April. Reports emerge that DOJ and FBI are not coordinating their public messaging. May. Bondi briefs the president, according to reporting. July. The president makes statements that contradict previous characterizations. September. White House officials tell the Journal that both sides screwed up. Raskin looked up. That's not a timeline of success, is it? That's a timeline of miscommunication, contradictory statements, and failures in basic coordination. Can either of you explain how two senior law enforcement officials managed to create this level of confusion? Bondi responded first. Congressman, the handling of sensitive materials involves multiple equities, legal constraints, privacy concerns, investigative considerations. When different agencies have different responsibilities, public communications require careful coordination. But that coordination clearly didn't happen, Raskin interrupted. You made statements on Fox News that your own FBI director then contradicted. How does that serve the public interest? Congressman, if there were instances where our characterizations differed, that reflects the complexity of the materials, not a failure to coordinate. Attorney General, with respect, your own White House disagrees with that assessment. Raskin held up the article again. They concluded both sides failed, not just one agency, both. Congressman Adam Schiff from California took his turn next, and his line of questioning focused on the reported tensions between the two offices. Attorney General Bondi, the Wall Street Journal article also reports that you told colleagues the FBI was leaking information about you to undermine your credibility. Is that accurate? Bondi's expression tightened slightly. Congressman, I have concerns about unauthorized disclosures from various sources. I didn't ask about various sources. I asked specifically if you accused the FBI of leaking against you. Bondi glanced at Patel before responding. I have raised concerns through appropriate channels about leaks that I believe serve no purpose other than to create friction between agencies. Schiff turned to Patel. Director, do you deny that the FBI has leaked information about the Attorney General? Patel's response was firm. Congressman, I do not authorize leaks. If leaks have occurred, they're unauthorized, and I would want them investigated. That's not quite a denial, Schiff noted. You're saying you don't authorize them, but not that they haven't happened. Congressman, I can't confirm or deny every allegation in every news story. But this isn't just any news story. This is the Wall Street Journal reporting that your own White House concluded both of you failed. That suggests serious dysfunction. And if the Attorney General believes your agency is undermining her, that's a problem, regardless of whether you personally authorized it. The exchange highlighted what the Journal story had documented, a breakdown in trust between two critical law enforcement agencies. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal from Washington brought a different perspective to the questioning. Attorney General Bondi, Director Patel, I want to focus less on who said what and more on the fundamental question. Do you both acknowledge that the handling of this matter has been problematic? It was a more general question that offered both officials a chance to show accountability without admitting specific failures. Bondi responded first. Congresswoman, I believe we could have communicated better with each other and with the public about the complexities involved. That's progress, Jayapal noted. Director Patel, do you agree that communication could have been better? Patel nodded. Congresswoman, interagency coordination is always a challenge. In hindsight, more frequent communication might have prevented some public confusion. So you're both acknowledging there were failures? Both officials hesitated before Bondi spoke. We're acknowledging that coordination could have been improved. That's different from acknowledging failure, Jayapal observed. But let me ask this. If your own White House concluded both sides screwed up, doesn't that suggest the problems went beyond just needing more meetings? Doesn't it suggest fundamental mismanagement? Neither official answered immediately. Finally, Patel spoke. Congresswoman, I can only speak to the FBI's efforts. We worked within our legal authorities to review materials and make appropriate determinations. If our public communications weren't as clear as they should have been, that's something we can improve. But that's minimizing the problem, Jayapal pressed. The White House didn't conclude you needed clearer communications. They concluded you screwed up, both of you. That's a much more serious assessment. Congressman Dan Goldman from New York took perhaps the most direct approach. Attorney General, Director, let me ask a simple question. Given that your own White House has concluded both of you mishandled this matter, has either of you considered resigning? The bluntness of the question created visible tension in the room. Bondi's response was firm. Congressman, I serve at the pleasure of the President. If he loses confidence in my service, that's his determination to make. That's not what I asked. I asked if you've considered it. Have you reflected on whether your mishandling of this matter warrants stepping aside? Congressman, I believe I can continue to serve effectively. That's also not an answer. Goldman turned to Patel. Director, same question. Have you considered whether your failures in this matter warrant resignation? Patel's response mirrored Bondi's. Congressman, the FBI continues to fulfill its mission. If the President believed leadership changes were necessary, that would be his decision. Goldman shook his head. Neither of you is actually engaging with the question. Your own White House concluded you both failed. In most organizations, when senior leaders fail at a high-profile task, they either accept accountability by stepping aside or they face consequences. Neither of you seems to believe consequences are appropriate. Bondi leaned forward slightly. Congressman, accountability doesn't always mean resignation. It can mean learning from challenges and improving going forward. But you haven't acknowledged any specific failures, Goldman countered. You've acknowledged coordination could be better. That's not the same as acknowledging the serious mismanagement your own colleagues identified. As the hearing continued, it became clear that neither Bondi nor Patel would directly acknowledge the both sides screwed up assessment, despite neither being able to convincingly deny it. Congressman Raskin used his remaining time to make a closing observation. Attorney General, Director, I want to note something for the record. When the Wall Street Journal reports that White House officials concluded both sides screwed up, and when neither of you can clearly deny that reporting, and when neither of you can point to any concrete accountability measures that have resulted from those failures, it sends a troubling message. He paused before continuing. It suggests that even when your own administration concludes you've failed, even when that assessment becomes public, even when Congress asks direct questions about it, there are no real consequences. That's not how accountability is supposed to work in a democracy. Neither Bondi nor Patel responded to the statement, which Raskin clearly intended as rhetorical rather than requiring an answer. The hearing concluded without either official having provided a clear explanation for how the coordination breakdowns occurred, why public statements contradicted each other, or what specific measures would prevent similar failures in the future.
The hearing didn't produce resignations or even explicit admissions of failure, but it established a public record that both the Attorney General and FBI Director had mishandled a significant matter badly enough that their own White House colleagues viewed both as having failed. The Wall Street Journal's reporting about the both sides screwed up assessment was never effectively disputed, only deflected. And in Washington, when officials can't deny damaging assessments but won't accept accountability for them, the assessment generally stands as accurate. Sometimes the most revealing testimony is what officials refuse to acknowledge, even when their own colleagues have already concluded it's true.